Good morning and welcome back to the Explicit Measures podcast. We are back again with another fun episode. Today's main topic will be more about Power BI accessibility. So let's jump into some things more about accessibility items. We're just going to kind of talk about how you can roll this out. What does it look like for your organization? Just some more topics around that as well. Tommy, good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Mike. Whoever thought we'd go 2 episodes in a row about accessibility, but obviously you and I talked about this on where we can go with this. And I think a lot of people are going to like how we are expanding on not just the individual's kind of workload, but again, how do companies put their money where their mouth is?
I think that's an important topic to talk about here. But Tommy, let's be real here. We've done 56 episodes now. Okay, I'll admit here, I just kind of a little bit messed up here. I put the wrong title on the last video, so we're kind of like going backwards in time a little bit here. But we're doing episode 455 now. But I will say, in 456 episodes, Tommy, how have we not had at least one or two topics around accessibility? I think it's really about time. Like you say, you're surprised we have 2. I'm surprised we don't have more because of this, because I think this is important enough that we should have more of these conversations.
And what I think it is, I think it's going to be a lot of the conversations today. A lot of companies say, we need to do this. This is a priority. But again, like, how do we actually know we're doing well? How do companies see the deliverables? So is it a cost? So I think this is going to be a good conversation to have.
Well, it is a cost because it adds more time to our projects. But before we get into their main topic, we're already talking about it. We're getting excited about it already. Before we get into our main topic, let's do a little bit of news. Tommy, you've got some news here. There's a Chicago event coming up here for the Microsoft Fabric and Power BI user group in Chicago. Give us the details.
Oh, yeah. So on October 2nd, Thursday at 3 p.m., we are hosting the Microsoft Fabric Power BI user group downtown, right in the Microsoft building on Randolph Street. And we're going to do Chicago's crash course in Fabric. A lot of people have been hearing only about Fabric through us because their company may not have it. So they want to be able to not just see a video on it, but again, see where else it can go. So we're actually going to be doing a deep dive into a lot of the features there. And again, taking advantage of being in person. So if someone wants to drive, we want to take a different direction. That's what the goal is, to really get understanding what you can do and how quickly you can do things.
So let me just give you a quick note here. So Tommy, I want to pick you a bit on this episode or this live event that we're going to be doing in Chicago. It'll be done at the Aon building downtown Chicago, right above the north side of Millennial Park. If you've never been there, we'd love to see you there. Please make sure you use the sign up link, and I'll put the meeting here also in the chat as well. We are at the Microsoft office. They do require a list of names so they can let people in. So it's very important that you actually do that one. And then we'll make sure that you get into there as well. So make sure you sign up for that. There will be some food provided. Tommy will be doing subs. We'll make sure you have that there. There is a slight fee to help offset some of the cost of food. It's not the full cost of food. So I think it's a $3 entrance fee. We want to make sure you commit to showing up. So we need to make sure that you're committed, and we think $3 is the right amount to get you to show up and be there. So I just wanted to point that out as well. Excellent. Anything else, Tommy, around the news?
Yeah, Mike, I couldn't wait as soon as I read this to get your opinion on it. I'm surprised we actually missed it, but we haven't talked about this idea called the semantic model refresh templates. Have you seen this?
Yes, I have seen this one.
All right.
I have words. Okay, let's see what you've got to say.
So when I first saw the title, I'm like, this sounds really unique and great and kind of cool and interesting, a little spicy. And besides one of the features, everything else, if I'm not mistaken, is it's already been out or been available to us. Yes. So, okay, I'm not going crazy there. So basically what these templates are, or really they're just more advanced refreshes. Not so much templates, because the template gallery has 4. It simply allows you to refresh your model different ways, which has been available to us a lot necessarily with the UI. For example, refresh after data flow. I've been doing that for quite a while now, both with Power Automate and with Fabric. Partition refreshing, the good old days, if you had a third-party tool. scheduled refreshes or advanced table refreshes. So say, hey, refresh this table, then refresh another table after that, which you can do with a pipeline.
Yep.
The only one that is really more unique that I've not seen is the alert one. But again, that was kind of already available to do. So Mike, what's your take on this?
So I'll say, let me give you some context. So this is a really good feature, I think. What is happening here, and what I believe Microsoft is doing, is look, there are common refresh patterns that should be used, and it's just a little bit more difficult because a pipeline is not straightforward. There's not like a button that says incremental refresh or select this semantic model, refresh this partition, right? There's a little bit more to it than just clicking a button. So this is Microsoft's attempt to build a pipeline with pre-built items for you to help you make the refresh a little bit easier. So, one of the items on this list is called a schedule refresh. I mean, come on, guys. Like, this one's a little bit basic for me, if you ask me. Like, okay, if you can't set that up yourself, I get it. Okay, that one is there. Sequencing multiple semantic models to be refreshed. Again, if you don't know how to refresh a semantic model by one, doing two of them shouldn't be rocket science. But, again, I agree there might be new people to pipelines that are a little bit confused. The ones that I'm more interested here are, the run around incremental and partition refreshing. To me, this is the one we really should care about. When you start getting into larger semantic models and you need to make APIs or calls directly to a semantic model, incremental partition refreshing, this is important. And this is why I've done a project recently where we had a client that needed this. Their models were much larger in the, tens of gigabytes size, 30, 40, 50 gigabytes in size. You don't ever want to reload that whole thing at once. You want to be very strategic about which partitions, how big are the partitions, is the partition by month, how many years of data are we trying to load at one time, because you're going to make the backend system kind of fall over in accordance to that as well. So one thing I'll just note there is I really like the incremental partition refresh pattern that they're trying to promote here. I think that's very good as well. And again, all the other ones kind of feel very remedial to me. So that one I think is important and people should pay attention to. The other ones are just kind of like, yes, that makes sense. Fine, they're there. Does that make sense, Tommy?
Yeah, and I'm looking at the image that they have, and it's kind of getting me a little heated because it's the incremental refresh that you think they would have more than a sentence and a half about. Again, you should to your point. This has kind of been, if you are a Power BI pro, you probably have needed to do this at some point. However, a lot of people either haven't or they haven't had the tooling available. And all it says is choose a table for a refresh. But again, what you're saying is that incremental side. That's kind of like this operative word here besides choose a table, refresh it.
Yes.
And the dang image is just the same one as the one above, a data flow refreshing a table.
Yes. Yeah. So this is where I'm a little bit vague on some of this is, when we talk about like advanced mode or advanced, so when you build Power BI desktop files, there's this idea of like replacing partitions, right? So we have like this, okay, I have some data. I know I need to drop these partitions and then replace them. That's hard to do. And honestly, you can do it, but you could have to do it in a notebook and it's just a bit more difficult. This is something that should be really easy to set up. I should be able to set up a semantic model through a pipeline and say, this is my semantic model. Go read the information for it. And I should be able to set an incremental refresh policy the same way we did it in desktop, just within the pipeline in the refresh activity. Hey, Power BI, I want you just to automatically go through and refresh the last 30 days of data. Great. Or there's other things here too, where maybe I want to feed a list of partitions to the refresh activity and say, these are the partitions I want to refresh. So in my scenario that I had was we had most of the data, let's say like 90% of the data was refreshing in the last like week or so, week and a half, right? So if you did a 30-day refresh of all the little partitions, you get most of the new data. Yeah. Every so often, something would be restated 6 months ago, a long time ago. Something had to be updated for whatever reason. And so those pieces of data, they get stuck. They get stale because that record for that partition 6 months ago never gets refreshed again. So here you have to have like a bit more on your loading data process side to say, okay, I'm bringing in a bunch of new records. We need to check all of these old partitions to make sure we know which ones need to be refreshed or not. And this is the same thing that Power BI is doing with the auto refresh or auto data detection. I think I don't remember exactly the name of it, but you can auto detect data. And so anyways, it's a good start. I hope we continue to refine this. I hope there's continued funding for this one to get people to use this a little bit better. But I think this is just trying to remove the barrier between my semantic model needs to be refreshed and I need a pipeline to help me do it.
100%. So yeah, I think I like the idea of the templates, but it's kind of pretty basic. The next piece of news, Mike, we don't have to talk about much because we literally did an entire episode on it. And of course, the episode or the blog comes out later. So there is what's new in the Fabric Warehouse. Well, if you really want to know what's new in the Fabric Warehouse, go to episode 454, which is when we actually talked to the dang product manager and leading guy at Microsoft, Brad, who went through what's coming and what's new in the Fabric Warehouse. It was cool to read the article and went, wow, I talked about each of these for an hour with Brad. Blog helps. Yeah. We're more entertaining. So
at least I hope so. Anyways, yeah, it was super fun. Having Brad on was a blast, and I learned a lot in there. Speaking of which, I actually want to call out something here. This is one of my beat from the street items here, Tommy, that I want to call out here. I was having some recent challenges or friction. Let me just say, I'll just call it friction points. I'm having some friction around the SQL server. So I have a SQL server. It's on an F2, I believe. It runs fine, no issue. We get data in, pipelines run, data gets loaded, not a problem. Very happy with it. My issue becomes when I have a report and a semantic model linking back to that SQL server. My issue is when I built this SQL server, I have a SQL server and I have a direct query semantic model running on top of that SQL server. Again, I don't have a lot of data. This is small data volumes. So it's easy to send all the queries back upstream. And again, I'm also building my report in a way that doesn't require a lot of fancy visuals or fancy measures. I'm just aggregating some things, right? So it's pretty basic. However, every time I open the report, when the SQL server gets paused or turns itself off, because I'm using direct query, dude, all the visuals break on the page. Have you seen that?
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about because it's directly connected. So
yes. So I thought, so my thinking here, so let me walk you through my mindset as a user of this. When I was doing this, I had the SQL server, I had direct query semantic model, and I went to the report like a day later. I'm like, uh-oh, I broke something. The whole report, every visual in the entire report had just, this visual is unavailable. This visual is unavailable. I'm like, what is going on here? And so then I was like, okay, well, let me just refresh the page. Still nothing. Refresh it again. Refresh the little button on the report page to refresh and go get new data. Refresh the data. Still not working. I'm like, what's going on here? This seems very weird. I had to close down the report, go back over to the SQL server, open the SQL server up in Fabric, run a query against the data, and only then could I go back over to the report and then see the report with the visuals attached. And I was so paranoid that I screwed something up. I was like opening the report. I was editing the report. I was trying to like change visuals, find different visuals. And it was such a weird, disjointed experience. I thought there just needs to be a message on the report that says, hey, you're using SQL Server serverless inside Fabric. We're spinning it up. Please hold while we get it going, and we'll load the report when it's ready. Like, that's all I needed. But instead, I got this really, every visual was broken, and the messaging was totally
it broke. Yeah.
It was so weird. So anyways, my opinion of the SQL Server is I really like it. I was just talking with another gentleman from the Microsoft team, and he was also saying, yeah, I really kind of like having SQL Server available to me and building things in SQL. I feel like I have a lot more control around a technology I already know really well. I'm like, I agree. I really like building on top of the SQL Server environment inside Fabric. It's very enjoyable. I'll say that. I really enjoy it. It takes away a lot of the other annoying things around having to manage a SQL Server. But anyways.
Now, that being said, though,
okay.
Here's the deal, Mike. There's something we said for just plain import my data. Like, I know it's not the most seamless and the most, fastest, and we run into issues, but we're dealing with these situations, Mike, where you're trying to give this almost real-time data, spin it up immediately. And that's kind of hard for just these random times for it to work, because the same things happen to me where things have to spin up or something slowing down. Like, if this was just a Power BI model, by itself just imported data, like
Yep.
I would not be having this issue at all.
100%. No. And but then to some degree, right, you have to wait for, like, when you want to refresh the model, the SQL server's got to spin up, and then it's got to give you the data, and then it's got to spin back down and go back to sleep again. So there's a little bit of, I think, roughness around the edges. Again, SQL server's in preview. It's probably going to get like better over time. It's definitely, so I'll say this. At initial glance, I like the system. I like how easy it was. I was able to easily write my pipeline, copy the data I need, and drop it right into the SQL Server into tables. Very easy. Really, I was very happy with it. And I also would agree, Tommy, SQL Server is less intimidating now than it ever has been for me, because Copilot is at my disposal. I can always ask it any kind of SQL questions, and it's really good about giving me the information I need to, oh yeah, that's how I write this statement, or oh yeah, this is how I format it. Now I'm giving, Tommy, I don't know if you're doing this, but when I'm trying to data engineer things now, I'm giving it the requirements of the SQL. I was generating some random data for a project, test something. And I said, I need a SQL table that has this, and this in it. I need a random number that does this. I need a random number that does this. Generate a SQL script that creates the table and puts data in it. Boom, like 2 seconds later, it came up with, here's your answer, copy pasted, boom, it works just fine. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, the barrier to entry for a lot of these code experiences is getting so low because Copilots are there to help support me.
I literally had this conversation with someone yesterday, and they were asking about what can they do with the ChatGPT and these AI tools with their data. Could they recreate their data, do things like right now? These tools are not going to be able to go through every single row of your data, but to your point, you can be that, you can be that conductor to say, you know what, you can write a script to generate that for me. You may not be looking at over everything yourself, but to your point, any workflow that I'm doing right now, I'm going through one of the AI tools. Say, here's the specs, here's the features we're going to have. It's going to be through notebooks and Fabric kind of thing. I need to worry about this. The date needs to be here. How do I approach this?
Yeah, I agree. I like it, Tommy. Super cool. Anyways, so that being said, that's all we have from Beat from the Streets. Any other topics or other comments around news or things you want to bring up, Tommy?
Very briefly, there is a transanalytical task flow contest coming up. I don't know if you saw this.
Oh, Tommy, I'm all over. I'm speaking at Translytical Task Flow. I'm doing a demo of Translytical Task Flows in Vienna coming up here this month. So I am very aware of the Translytical Task Flow competition, and there are some interesting submissions appearing here on this gallery. And actually, to that end, I'll make sure I go get the link for that, Tommy. Keep going. Talk about what you're going to say, and I'll see if I can snag the link here and put that in the chat window as well.
Yeah, so who knew, but there's actually a analytical task flow gallery. And I remember when those were kind of my bread and butter for themes and DAX, but now there's a gallery. I'm surprised we just haven't moved everything to GitHub yet, but you can go to the galleries and you actually see some pretty unique samples and examples of what we can do with UDFs and transanalytical. This is exactly what I was talking about, Mike. Give me an image or GIF or whatever, explain the situation, and let me understand the realm of what's possible. I'm just looking at a few of these here, and we'll feature by top kudos, a vacation tracker, dynamic Power BI experiences, smart event management, modified data in SQL, approval workflows, data annotations. So pretty cool stuff, Mike.
Yeah. So I will say this, the Translytical Task Flow Gallery is really interesting. One of the things I want to point out here is a lot of people think translytical and they think, oh, we're just going to replace or update data in a table. There's way more to this. Like, there's custom AI integration. And if you note the very first 6 examples here from Sujata, she's the PM on the Microsoft team, and she built these solutions with Miguel Myers doing the visual and the graphic design and some of the interactions between these systems and databases. So we will be talking directly about this topic inside the Microsoft Fabric conference in Vienna. Nice. And you'll see there's people have built Sudoku as a translytical task flow. That's something you can have in there. People are building dynamic experiences, like a choose your own character for like a dynamic generation for a user or persona for like like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of game kind of thing. They have decrypting data in the fly. There's just a lot of really interesting examples that are coming out here. And we're seeing some other things about like smart event management, where events or things are getting sent directly to a function, and that function is directly writing data into tables and databases, so you can go see it in your reports. Anyways, translytical is way more than write back. It is
oh my gosh,
anything automation. And if it can talk to a function, it can do other things. So I just want to point that out. Very cool, super neat technology there. Very excited to see where this is going to go. All right. That being said, I think we're at the time for our topic today. Well, we have another caller today, so let's bring in our caller today. Stephanie, welcome to our show. Thank you very much for calling in today. We really appreciate you being here and jumping in with us. Hello again.
Well, friends, good to see you again.
hello.
And I'm excited we're talking accessibility again.
Yes, let's go a little bit more on some of the topics today. So let's kind of unpack some more things around accessibility. We did a talk yesterday, just kind of talking generally, what is it? There's some tools that are existing inside Power BI. There's a couple tools that are out in the community, one of them being yours, which is very exciting to have that, the accessibility checker, which over the time between we talked yesterday and today, I've downloaded it. I've looked at it. I'm looking at what's inside there, the tab order page, like reporting things on this. And so, yeah, let's just keep unpacking a little bit more around accessibility. Tommy, where would you like to take this today? What would you like to talk about for topics?
Yeah, I think it's just a nice handoff from Tuesday, where Tuesday we were really focused on the individual report author, kind of that intimate relationship between me and the person that I know is going to look at the reports. So the micro side of getting right with accessibility. However, Mike, we were talking about this a little more, and the thing is too, a lot of people are going to be, how do you say, pushed or suggested to start doing accessibility by their organization. It's a big push. A lot of leaders says this needs to be part of what we do, that we're inclusive, that we're doing everything that we need to do to make sure that everyone can work their best. But the problem is, Mike, a lot of things, especially at the end of our conversation on Tuesday, we realized it wasn't just a single click and we're done. There is a lot of consideration that goes into it. And especially if we're churning out data and churning out reports, well, there's a rubber meets the road, to borrow your phrase here, in terms of getting accessibility right, but also too, the value for the organization and what are they expecting when they're going to say, hey, BI, you're going to be doing accessibility, and kind of rolling out to what does that mean in the wider picture with an organization?
Yeah. Let's unpack some of that pieces. So I've been in a number of organizations. I've had very few organizations that I've worked with have pushed heavily for a lot of accessibility, right? So some simple things, right? So tab order, but I very rarely do I see organizations putting like process behind it, where they're allowing the development team to spend or have the checklist of these are what we expect for requirements around accessibility. I think people say the term, but don't really understand what it means and what actually that takes in effect for. Because I think there's actually kind of some scales here, right? We talked about the easy things, right? Tab order, colors, design of the pages. Those are some starting points. There could be a lot more you go through. So, all right. I'll leave it right there. I'll just leave my thought there. Stephanie, what do you think? What other thoughts do you have around this one?
Yeah. Well, I think just like anything, it all comes down to funding, right? Because we need to have funding and time to be able to build these in. They're not instantaneous. I worked at a large organization in the past, and one quarter it was told to my team that, okay, accessibility, you got to do this, but how? And you can't drop anything else, right? So you still have to keep doing everything else you're doing, plus you have to add this in. So really that's where the idea for the accessibility checker came for me, which was that, well, we don't have anything built into Power BI desktop like we do in PowerPoint or Word, right, to check accessibility. And so I realized, okay, if everybody on my team is going to have to be doing this, we don't want to have to do this manually. Checking all of the visuals on your page to see if they have alt text manually, that's really time consuming.
A little bit of work.
Yeah, so I took that on myself to, okay, well, if I have to do this, I'm sure other people have to too. So that's where the idea for this came from. But really, ideally, it would be built into Power BI Desktop.
Yes.
So for Microsoft, though, is that one of the areas of investment for them? I think obviously we all can tell right now what the big areas of investment are. Copilot, right? So,
Yep.
without having budget to build in accessibility or at any organization, Microsoft in the tool itself, or any of the organizations the rest of us are working for, it's just not going to happen. So
Yeah.
it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to fund it.
I like this point, and I think there's two things that come out of this that rise notes to my mind, right? So two things that kind of come to mind at this one. First one is, one, you got to put your money where your mouth is, right? There's going to be some additional investment from the organization to be able to allow us to do this one. To your point, what really resonated with me is, well, here's all your 10 tasks of things you got to do. Oh, and we also want to add to this accessibility, but we're not going to give you any extra time. The reports, you still need to build the reports as fast as possible. Get them out as quickly as you can, because again, we're wasted. Like we can't have wasting money. We need you to keep getting things done as fast as we need you to. But we want to add this new requirement. So this is where I feel like sometimes there's a little bit of doublespeak coming out of the leadership, because they want something, but they're not willing to give us time to accomplish it. But this is where my second thought comes out, which is, doggone it, we should be automating this. There should be better tooling that just says, here's the problem. I'm going to show you where the problem is quickly. If you've got a 5, 6, 7, 8 page report, that could take you hours to go through every little thing, making sure everything has the right effects, taking screenshots of all the pages, running it through a color checker. Like, unless you have something that's helping you. Again, I'm also thinking, Stephanie, you're in a team of other people building reports as well. It's not just you. So all the time you're spending on this one, there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 other people also building reports. They have to do the same thing. So why not put someone really smart like yourself on top of let's figure out the tooling to build the accessibility checker. And then from there, you can leverage that across all the reports, and now everyone's saving time. I really think this concept of focused attention or focused problem solving helps build things that are easier to use for the organization. Does that make sense, what I'm describing there?
Yeah, and I think Tommy, you brought up the automation piece the other day. Also, that's really where it's key. And then fortunately, John Kursky, he pointed out that he does do it in an automated way, and he's shared his tooling for that on his GitHub page. But I don't know of a lot of other organizations where it's built into the process like that. John works for government, so he's required to, right? But the rest of us may not be. But yeah, if we can get this tooling built so that it's more automated, then we can all get into the habit.
And Mike, that's the biggest problem right now is, of course, the ideal thing is we invest in building an automation platform or purchasing one, so we don't have to spend that tedious time for every single report in our day-to-day. But the problem is, even when John Kersey's repo, which is awesome, again, this is not something where, I'm going to vibe code this for the next 20 minutes and then I'm done, in terms of getting it set up, right? It's not like, I don't
know. Honestly, I don't know about that one. So we say that now, Tommy, but now with the PBIP form. So I have a story around this one. So sorry, I didn't interrupt, but let's keep going down this line thing. But I'm going to make a note here. I'm going to come back to your comment, Tommy. Keep going, but I want to make a note on this vibe coding accessibility. Keep going.
I already know where you're going with it. I'm just mad I didn't think about it first. But I think.
All right, keep going. Keep going.
No, gosh darn it, you take the wind out of. Okay, actually, you're 100% right. So before, because we're dealing with binary files, we were thinking here is, there was no kind of in a sense, supply chain or like a turn wheel that you could just push a report through and it would get a score. A lot of things we're dealing with there. So no matter what, it's always going to be somewhat of a manual process. However,
However,
yeah. So again, this is all speculation here. I don't
100%.
have this until
I agree.
probably until lunch. But even then, Mike, every organization is going to have their own policies, which I'm sure we get set up for. It sounds easy, but right now there is no global standard. I mean, to your point, Stephanie, you worked at Microsoft, and they're like, how about you by yourself make the accessibility checklist or whatever we need. Rather than kind of putting a team around it, because resources at the end of the day too. And any big company though too is they're always going to be looking to investing in things that are going to be directly money makers. And it's hard to invest in something where it's not just the time, the budget, but with this especially, it's the time that has to be spent getting it configured right.
Well, I want to go back. So I understand it. So I don't think the idea here is the concept of getting it right. I don't think I think I would resonate very well with getting it right.
In the way of saying it that we can be efficient with time as well.
I would it's going to be like a progression. It's like, how can we do it better than where we are right now? So I'm not going to say there's not a right way of doing this one. It's also not like one person can make the decision and say, this is exactly what we're doing. This is now correct. And it's a process. It's an improvement. And we're going to be incrementally getting better at this. Now, what I wanted to go back to your comment was vibe coding of reports. And so here, let me paint a scenario here for you. We are working with a large customer right now that has a number of business built reports. Okay. In those business built reports, there's a lot of thin measures. Okay. So the report has thin measures in them. And those thin measures are causing the report and the semantic model to be slow. Okay. So what we've done is we've said, let's revisit these reports and say, let's do an analysis on the performance analyzer. Where is the slowness coming from? Okay. Here's a bunch of measures. Well, in order to make those measures faster, we need to reshape the model a little bit, build some different measures, use calculation groups, new things. We're basically enhancing our original semantic models, but the business still wants the same reports. Okay, now the reason why I'm bringing this scenario up is because we solved this with vibe coding. We have vibe coded a HTML standalone app, and this is what I've been saying for a long time, where AI can do pretty amazing things. We vibe coded a solution that would, like, after you save the files as PBIP files into a desktop application, you could point our vibe coded app directly at the folder and say, here's all the files for the pages and the semantic model. Here's how they all relate. Give me a graphical image in SVG of where all these visuals sit on every page. Boom. Like within an hour or two, we had an app that was reading the semantic model in, had all the visuals all over the page, and it worked. Like we had, and so now we can start analyzing at a higher degree where all the visuals came from, what measures were in them. Another thing that this thing came out with, all the bookmarks that you may need, right? So if you change a table name or a data point name or column name, that bookmark may be interacting on top of that item. So you have to switch out the context of the bookmark because you renamed a table. There's a whole bunch of implications when you try and like rebuild a semantic model, but use the same report again.
Right.
So page by page now, you have to go through visual by visual and figure out what broke, how do you fix it, what's the new equivalent data, and how to replace things. So what we were able to do is, using this vibe-coded app, produce here's every visual, here's every measure, here's every bookmark, all the things you may need, and you can then click through them and see what information you might need to update. Now, this is like a step one for us. But the reason I bring this up is because within a couple hours, we had a full app meeting some of our solution needs to be able to fix this. I feel like this is a great opportunity for a vibe-coded accessibility checker, or vibe coding, like, here's what our standards are, and then go through this report and go check them. And it would then be able to produce a little script or something that would read through the PBIP format and spit out, here's the visuals that are meeting your tab order. Here's the visuals that have potentially weird contrasting colors. Hey, I'm going to publish this report to PowerBI.com. I'm going to go use the export to PDF API, load these PDFs, and then do a color checker on every page. Like, that's stuff that I think should exist. Like, and it shouldn't be extremely difficult to vibe code that, or it's a barrier to entry that we're just getting less. I'm just going to pause right there. What are your guys' thoughts on like this whole vibe coding accessibility? Does this seem like a thing? Let's go kick it over to Shannon, or sorry, Stephanie, to you first.
What you're talking is making me think one thing we did not touch on the other day, and automation, pulling it all together, vibe coding, is using semantic link for some of this. Because from what I'm hearing you saying, we're talking about we could analyze report by report by report, individual.
Sure.
And one of the features I love so much about Semantic Link and Semantic Link Labs is the ability to, trawl through your whole tenant and look at a whole bunch of things at once.
Totally
so
agree.
I think with Semantic Link and Semantic Link Labs, we could be really close to putting a lot of these accessibility checks in there as a notebook or as something like the best practice analyzer, right? We could be adding accessibility in there. So I would love to see that. I did start a little bit because the way the files are laid out, it's the tab order is coded funny. It's like coded in the thousands and it's backwards and you got to convert it and do all this stuff that I don't know how to do, but I'm sure a little Copilot can help me with that, right?
Could figure that one out. Yeah. Yes.
Exactly. So I think that's an area too. And multiple things. Like you said, we could create a little app to do it. Because one thing I do want to make sure that we're always supporting is not just Fabric, right? Because there are a lot of organizations who are using Power BI without Fabric. So we want to be able to have a tool that works for them for accessibility, because Semantic Link is only going to be if you're using Fabric. But the more tools we can build to support everybody's scenario for this is how we're going to enable it and automate it. So yes, I think to everybody's point, we should be doing some vibe coding, doing some automation, just getting it built in.
Yeah, I agree with that one. And I think that, again, focusing, I think as long as we focus the community's attention, like, so if we're talking about community-based things, I mean, how we like mobilize the community to solve something that Microsoft's not really investing in at this point, like they're building some accessibility features into Power BI Desktop, and it feels like they're doing like kind of a cursory level development. But to get what we really want, which are like tooling and checking and like, process-based tooling, right, that we want to apply, right? We can leverage the community to kind of like move more towards a, hey, community, if you need this, let's all band together. Let's produce the accessibility tooling that we think we need, and do it in a way that we can just leverage this on someone's computer. And to your point, right, there's no reason why we can't use or build up a notebook or Python library that can just run on someone's computer. So, Fabric is Python. Python does use Semantic Link Labs. Maybe we skip to the Semantic Link Labs part and just build like, hey, we're just going to make a couple API calls. That way we can still go talk to PowerBI.com or not and get the things out that we need. Or maybe it's an entire notebook that just runs locally on your machine, pick up the files, do the work that you need to, and here's outputting the information. So I think there's something to this that has some legs here if we mobilize the community and kind of help organize a direction of where we want to develop towards.
And I think Microsoft is kind of counting on us to do that, right? That is their stance on some things, right? Is we're not going to invest in that because we know our community is excellent and you guys can build some great tools. So that might be where they are with accessibility,
Well, I think more than just accessibility. Honestly, I think their position on this is they're actually way more than that, right? So it's more like we're building the platform called Fabric. You build what you want on top of it, and we'll support it. And so I'm really motivated around workloads. So workloads are extremely exciting to me as a developer, because if I dream it up, I can put whatever I want into a workload, and I can give it away for free, or I can give it away for paid, or I can have a license attached to something, or I can give part of it away for free and part of it away for paid. Like, there's a lot of flexibility in the workloads experience, more so than building custom visuals at this point. And I'm really excited about the flexibility we get with workloads. And to your point, this is again back to the community. Like the community can maintain something like this. The community can build its own workload that would be, an accessibility checker workload, right? And then it has all. And again, we're now talking Fabric realm of the workload spaces, but you can now build full-fledged applications as part of Fabric, and then Microsoft doesn't have to build it. All they have to do is be able to maintain the API layer so that when we build the tool, we can recall all the reports that Michael has access to. Great. We can run the report on this and have everything spit out answers and say, here's your accessibility score for the organization. And now you have you can now build process around that. Like that's my point here is now that you have some kind of tooling, now you can build the process as opposed to making people click buttons all the time. Sorry, pause. Tommy, you're going to say something.
So I like the idea of this, and this sounds great that we can take some of that mantle up. But here's the thing, Mike. If this is going to be something you roll out, and I want to kind of also tie this in when we're talking about if you're an organization, they're like, the accessibility side is a really big part of what we're going to be doing. It's an initiative that we have. Well, you have how do I put this? You have a little hill to climb. And even if we were to take on a community-led GitHub repo or what's not, this is such an important part of people's life. If this is something that you have to work with on the day-to-day basis, that you almost wish there would be a product that would always be maintained. Because again, is this the most important thing that we'll ever do in our lives? Probably not, but for people who rely on things being accessible to them to be as efficient as they can be, I don't know. Like the only worry is like that it's great to have a example out there in a repo, but I almost want to say, let's not kid ourselves in terms of this will be the standard, right? Because here's the thing, and I think that's where I'm going here a bit. When you talk about a standard of accessibility, we've talked a lot about the requirements and the specs of it. But there's that whole other side of, again, how do you acquire said accessibility in a sense, make it part of the workflow? If you bought just like an email system, it all can automate things. With even the Copilot and the AI editor, right? That is a great example. But Mike, I don't know a company who would look at this GitHub repo and say, this is how we're going to tackle our accessibility. And I'm not trying to poo-poo this. I'm not trying to say that this couldn't be actually a great inspiration for people, but I'm stuck on the fact that even from all these major companies, what we deal with from the visual side of things, well, my goodness, there really is not a single product. Maybe I haven't realized that until now, that can streamline things. And again, not making everything perfect, but put it into some type of workflow. Am I making sense here, or is this the time where I need to come back to the conversation?
Totally agree, Tommy, because what I'm thinking about is I've got some features of the accessibility checker that I would like to build. Like there's just a couple things that I think that are kind of missing, but I just haven't had time, and I don't want people relying on, oh, has Stephanie had enough coffee and does she have enough free time to be working on this, right? So yeah, I think you're exactly right. Because if it's not being maintained, then it's not going to be all that helpful.
But I'm going to challenge you guys on this one, because let's think about, we're talking just the three of us. We're already talking about accessibility is hard. There's steps to get it done. There's things that we've built some simple tooling that needs to be better. John Kursky is already using your tooling today currently, right? And to some degree, he's profiting from the money of the projects he's getting delivered because the tool exists. So he's contributing to the tool himself. So that's a fair trade-off. I feel like he's contributing to the tool as well as using the tool to help his business achieve real project work, right? That ties to real dollars. Let's step back though. Let's look at the broader community of this one. Why aren't we funneling money from lots of organizations down to a Stephanie that knows what we're doing here and has good ideas around building a solution that would be automatable and usable? To your point, Tommy, this is where I think workloads does make sense to some degree, because now you can funnel funds process, money, dollars. Again, let's go back to our very early part of the conversation, which was if companies want this stuff to be participating in their reporting, they got to put some skin in the game. They got to put some money down and say, not only Microsoft by making it accessible and giving us the ability to make the features we need to make it our part of our process, but organizations need to step in and say, yeah, we think this is important. We're going to go buy a tool. We're going to pay $2 per report that we run through this system that checks our accessibility and has an output. And that money should go to Stephanie that is now building and maintaining and creating this tool. So if we do it one organization at a time, we don't get very far because the level of investment for that one company is massive. But if we start scaling out to like the thousands, the hundreds of thousands of companies and all participating at a little bit level, like, hey, we want accessibility. Great. Here's a tool you can run these reports through for $1 or $2 per report. It'll spit out what you need to go fix or even fix some simple things, tab order, recommend colors. These colors are too stark. Check these things here, or here's the areas of report that are not. How valuable is that? Right. So I guess what I'm saying is like the community needs a momentum, like to collaborate around this a little bit and figure out how do we centralize this, get someone to kind of own it, and then funnel people with real money, real dollars down to making the solution better. Does that make sense?
It does. Unfortunately, I think I'm a little bit cynical and jaded somewhat because I don't think accessibility is a high priority for a lot of organizations. If they don't have to do it, they're not going to pay for it. Sorry, that's my cynicism there.
I think they'll pay for it. I think it's the threshold on what they'll pay for it, right? I'm not going to pay $1,000 per report, or I'm not going to pay an engineer a week of time to keep going through and checking all the accessibility. But I'd be happy to pay a $20 Copilot a month to run an automation on all my reports. I'd be happy to pay $200 for a Copilot to run across all my reports. Like, so it's just to me, it's not a matter of if they'll pay. It's more of like what they're willing to pay. I feel like is the story here, right? And I think the threshold on what they're willing to pay is actually much lower than what you actually need to do the investment to make it work. Does that make sense? Like the investment side is way higher. And so if you need to have a lot of something built, you need a lot of sponsors, supporters, like people that like, hey, we're committed to making this work, but I can only give you just a little bit of money. But if you pull enough of the little bit of money, is you get enough to actually make a movement on something. That's kind of how I.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, a little optimism here. I like it.
Well, and I know this works because this is how I've built my Intelexos product. So Intelexos is an embedded solution that we have, and we have built enough to prove that the technology works. And then we partner with companies and say, look, here's the proof. We have the solution. So I had to put some initial investment in to like make it go, right? Figure out how it works. But now we're at a place where we can embed anything anywhere and it works. And now, hopefully, and again, knock on some wood here, hopefully this week, we're going to not only be able to use our app to embed Power BI reports, but you can also embed Databricks dashboards in the same tool, in the same website. So it's really being born of like, okay, I have a product. It's adding clear value at a level that we're at right now. Other organizations are coming in and saying, hey, we'd like to use that, but it's missing a little something, or we'd like to add a little bit more. Great. Here's the software at a low price. Help me fund the feature that you need to add to the product. And so now we're getting a better product for every customer, but now I'm getting kind of like companies to give me ideas and suggestions and like things that would make it easier for them. That's what we're using to help fund the better product. And I think this is the same idea. It's almost like crowdfunding to some degree. You have to have a product that's usable and then get people to buy into it and then say, well, John's like, well, if we add a little bit more automation, I can do this in DevOps. Great. Help us, like show up and some money on it. Like, and that's how I think products like this actually get off the ground. Thoughts?
Mike, if you and I worked on every vibe coding project that we've talked about, we'd either be much richer or we'd never have a family. I don't think there's any in between. So, but honestly, to be very honest, Mike, as soon as you started explaining, when I was like, yeah, there's no way to streamline this, you're like, is there? As soon as I thought about that, I really think we're beginning to see a lot of, we're just on the cusp of a lot of unknown, incredible ideas and use cases because of two things. I think for the first time ever, we as developers, quote unquote, have a coding based language for what we do. And that can open up so many doors, that just that alone, having everything built on Tyndall that can modify everything. Even if there wasn't a thing called AI right now, that I look at any other scripting language that can build an app or things are hosted on. There are so many people, kind of extending that and building packages to help those workflows and enhance and extend what it can do. We've never had that because we lived in the binary world. Anyways, now we have that can modify every detail of a report page, the order of things. And we have this neat thing called AI where we don't have to go through all this, that I think we're going to begin to see. Well, we may not see the enterprise solution. I think there's going to be some great opportunity. I think just great examples out there just coming up. And I think it's really because those two things are open to us now.
I'm not sure what your point was, Tommy. What's your main point there?
Well, I'm just saying, like for all the projects that we're talking about, hey, this would be great if we had used Tyndall and AI to streamline our accessibility. Well, what we're really beginning to see is that's going to be the conversation we're going to have, I think, on a lot of other things as well. Because we wouldn't, even if AI was out here, Mike, without Tyndall and the PBEP, we'd never have this conversation. We would never be in it. Yeah.
Okay, so now I see where you're going with this one. I would 100% agree. To me, the revolutionary step was, and Stephanie, you did this one in the early days with PBIX files. You were doing initial like ripping files apart, showing you where visuals were on the page. It was a arduous and super painful thing. You had to unzip a PBIX, you had to unpack all the files in it, and there's all this crazy parsing with like, where does the visual sit? What's the properties of the visual? It's JSON as a string, which is a nightmare.
It's still the same. I was so excited for the PBIP
really?
It's a little easier, but you still have to, it's the same logic though. So even though there's maybe just a little bit less of the, JSON that I have to clean up, it's still the same structure. So
to test for the accessibility pieces.
And where each visual sits and all that stuff. All of that's the same. It's just a little bit cleaner now. So yeah, I was so excited that, this is going to make it so much easier. It did make it a little, but not as much as I hoped.
Maybe I'm underestimating the accessibility side of things, but I have found like the automation of reports is way easier with the PBIP format.
Yes.
So maybe that's why I'm saying maybe I'm downplaying a little bit of the accessibility side of things too much. And I'm focusing because we now have a project we just did with a company that we want to automate reports. And we basically defined a grammar language around, hey, this is what a report should look like. Here's the name of it. Here's page 1. Here's the visuals I want on the page. Oh, I want a header. Here's what that's defined as. Here, I want a footer. Boom. That's what I want. This is a navigational element. I want to put it here. So we could define general things. And then we made scripts that would run through and just build 30, 40 pages of report, like in less than a minute, right? To have that, like the amount of time we can now save by doing report automation was huge. So I feel like from a developer standpoint, when I'm looking at a report and trying to pull apart the pieces of report, and now even talking to like the APIs in Fabric, I can say, go get the report API, bring out that PBIP formatted object, much easier to work with from a developer standpoint. Like but to your point, the stuff is still like all over the place. The tab order is still in a weird thing, and you got to like format it the right way. Like I'm not trying to diminish the technical challenges of the accessibility side, but I'm just saying for me, I am much more comfortable throwing a developer at this and say, figure this out. Here's a spec, here's a schema, do what you got to do. And I also think AI likes that stuff better as well. So AI is much easier to go talk to it and say, here's what I want you to go produce and build. And who knows, maybe we should vibe code a, solution that talks to the Power BI APIs and gets a downloaded PDF of that same report and then uses that to do something else in an open standard. Like we can start really stitching things together here in a very unique way and building something for reasonably low cost.
I agree. I think you're right. And definitely the automation piece, it has improved. But for the accessibility piece, it's still weird and complex. And so I can see that the three of us here are getting kind of excited about possibility of vibe coding something. Hopefully some of your listeners are too, and we can invite them to join and help build this.
I would agree.
Fantastic.
I think it'd be a lot of fun to get something started there. I will, again, no guarantees. Life's busy. We got a lot of things going on, but I would love to do like a workshop around vibe coding, things like this. That would be a very fun workshop to get a bunch of people kind of on a call and say, let's all try to test something out. Let's get into a place in a Fabric environment where we could start doing some of this and start having it help us build a mini solution around what we want to produce here, which would be very fun. Would you believe it? We've already made it to basically an hour already of talking around this one. We were a little bit worried about this topic at the beginning, thinking, we're not going to have enough topic to talk about this again. No problem, actually. I felt like we were easily able to fill a full hour here. So let's do final thoughts, and then we'll kind of wrap for the day. Stephanie, over to you. Let's what's your final thoughts on this conversation today? What do you think we should take it away from this conversation?
I think just what we were just talking about. I'm really excited. It makes me want to jump back in and tackle those remaining items that are bugging me about the accessibility checker. It's making me hope that other people will join into this effort, because again, I just don't think there's a ton of funding for it. So this is something that we have to join together as a community to make happen and get this enabled for people. So that's what I'm hoping that we will do.
Let me also ask one other thing here too, Stephanie. I'm going to pick on Microsoft here a little bit. You have made a pull request to Semantic Link Labs around some accessibility checker stuff. Is that correct?
This was a while ago, yes, and it came through. So I was so excited about that. But there are some more things that I think that we could work together to get, the tab order check, alt text check, things like that built into Semantic Link Labs. So let's do that.
So I want to point at this one. I think it's very important that we get more visibility. And again, I'm calling on you, Michael Kowalski. We're gonna pick on you a bit more here. Keep bringing in this is, to me, feels like the right place to put community effort, in my opinion. Right? Kowalski's got this amazing tool, Semantic Link Labs. Yes, it's very Fabric centric, but this is a place where the community can contribute features and things that they need to help them get their stuff done. And so, Stephanie, thank you very much for contributing to this Semantic Link Labs environment. I'd love to see more of it. I'd love to see more support opportunity pieces coming into Semantic Link Labs, and we should encourage this. This is us going to the community and saying, go there, build the things that you need in Python. It's not rocket science. You can vibe code some of these pieces in here. Let's go start pushing on this one and see if we can really get Microsoft to pay attention, because things that happen inside Semantic Link Labs potentially will migrate their way into Semantic Link, which is supported by Microsoft and is part of the product to some degree, and you get it by default installed on notebooks. So there is a road for us to help build things and have them get moved into the product at some point too. So I think I want to really encourage that. Nice work. Tommy, any final thoughts for you?
Honestly, despite the dark and gloomy outlook halfway through Mike, I'm with you here. Give me a positive outlook on what we can do. And honestly, I think, a lot can start with us, and let's utilize what we have available to us, the resources and the tools that we're working with today. Again, part of this is how do we automate? Can we streamline this? And part of this is how do we make sure we're doing the right thing? So really excited to see where we go from here. And if anyone listening has any examples that they've done, we would love to hear them.
Awesome. My final wrap up here, I think the world is changing quicker than we think. Oh yeah, go ahead, Stephanie. You want to say one thing?
Sorry,
and we have a user group coming up. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Let's go. I'll finish my thing and then I'll let you come back. Stephanie has an announcement as well, so I'll throw that in there as well. I want to just kind of throw that. I think things are changing faster than we expect them to, and I think this whole vibe coding, large language models experience is going to help us, the community, to build things that we need in a much faster way. Like if it's an accessibility checker, if it's a report migration tool, if it's these are things, and I've been, Tommy, you and I have talked about this in the podcast a lot. We're going to get to a point where we're able to vibe code an app, use it for 15 minutes and throw it away. It's going to get so easy. It's going to be, you could be able to describe exactly what you want and have that become a simple little tool you use for a short period of time. And then you just put it back on the shelf and build another one and build one that's better. Things are evolving so fast and the code is getting so well written. I think there's going to be an opportunity here. I think if someone wants I wouldn't say $1 million idea, like hundreds of thousands of dollars idea, maybe go build some sort of accessibility tool or checker or something like that. Try to mobilize all these companies that want to adhere to these standards, but just don't have the proper tooling yet. So it might be an opportunity for people. So very excited for the future, specifically around vibe coding and how that can help us build better tools around specifically accessibility. All right. Stephanie, you have some events coming up. I'd love to give you an opportunity here to kind of promote what you're going to be doing next. What do you have coming up here?
Thank you. Well, just you guys were talking about the Chicago user group, which reminded me that we have a Pittsburgh. Sorry, I'm based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
You don't have to be sorry about that.
SQL. I didn't mention it earlier. A Pittsburgh SQL Saturday is coming up in, I think it's October 18. We would love to have people join us in person. It's going to be a lot of fun, some great content around SQL, Fabric, Power BI. So I think you have the link, Mike. I'm hoping you'll put that in the chat. So if anybody's
Links in the chat.
Pittsburgh is a beautiful city. If you've never been here before, we would love to invite people to come and join us. And also I will be doing a free Fabric in a day as a pre-con for that. So Friday, right before it. Yeah. So please join us. There are some spots left. We'd love to make some new friends and talk Fabric, Power BI, SQL, all the good things.
That's amazing. So that's awesome. Well, I spelled the word wrong, but there was a free Fabric in the day right before the conference. So check that out. That's actually amazing. Okay, excellent. With that being said, thank you all very much for listening to the podcast. I hope you found this topic informative, helpful. Hopefully this will give you some ammunition at your organization to get them to put their money where their mouth is. Have them help you build better accessibility reports and do some slight but better improvements. And this is not a destination. This is a progression. Just get a little bit better to from where we were to where we want to become. So I think this is one of these things where we can just encourage the community to just be a little bit better, and that's an improvement in and of itself. With that being said, we really appreciate your listenership. If you want to listen to this episode ad-free, feel free to go down, subscribe to our membership level. Our lowest level does have the ability for you to watch all these episodes without any ads if you get annoyed by ads. We'd love to have you become a member. We also have a private Discord channel and other areas where you can talk to us directly if you want to talk more about these topics and reach out directly. Also in the members area as well. With that being said, please like and subscribe to this stuff. We'd love you to give a thumbs up or comments down. How are you using accessibility? Let us know in the comments below of what you're doing today in your organization and what you're finding that are wins and maybe even some challenges. We can even talk about that and maybe that'll become a product someday. Tommy, where else can you find the podcast?
You can find us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to subscribe and leave a rating. It helps us out a ton. Do you have a question, idea, or a topic that you want us to talk about a future episode? Head over to powerbi.tips/podcast, leave your name and a great question. And finally, join us live every Tuesday and Thursday, 7:30 a.m. Central, and join the conversation on all powerbi.tips social media channels.
Excellent. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time.